Oh my God. Wasn't Cynthia amazing? Wow. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Talent Connect. Gracias to Rosanna and the LinkedIn family, and to everyone here and everyone watching around the world. I'm so happy to be here with all of you to talk about why we are better together. In other words, the power of unity. It was mi papi, my dad, who first taught me about the meaning of unity. We are originally from Venezuela in South America, but we used to spend some summer vacations in New York City. One day, he took me to Central Park to one of those beautiful lakes and rented this big canoe. And he said, "Mari, I want you to take us to the other side of this lake." He purposely failed to tell me that you need 2 people rowing at the same time in order for the canoe to move. So he let me struggle for a little bit, and then he joined me with his paddle, and I saw that canoe magically move forward. That day, he taught me a lesson that I will never forget. In life, just like in this canoe, no one gets far alone. Hi, my name is Mariana Atencio. I am a journalist, author, and speaker. As a storyteller, I've learned the value of each experience and the importance of sharing them. Each person has so much to teach and so much to learn. But sometimes we fail to make these wonderful connections that will help us understand the world around us. Fortunately, my career allows me to fulfill this passion on steroids. You see, my job is to travel all over the world covering conflict and chaos, because they rarely send you to go cover good news. I have walked with migrant families fleeing extreme violence in Central America to the US southern border. I have been tear-gassed with students in China, and most recently, I just came back from covering the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas. I have seen my share of devastation. But through it all, I have also seen the biggest displays of unity. It is such a simple word with the most powerful meaning, a state of harmony where everything blends together to become stronger without losing its individual abilities. And I cannot think of a more perfect metaphor for Talent Connect, for what you do. It is an algorithm of creativity and engineering and business skills, putting practically every single human talent at the tip of the world's fingers. The contributions that each of you make to the world through your network, through your hiring decisions, that's just the best connection ever. It's kind of like LinkedIn. Now, as a user, when you upload your profile to LinkedIn, you are gaining access to a global tribe that will push your ideas and your projects to the next level. But LinkedIn and some of these professional experiences can be intimidating at times, especially if you come from an immigrant background like me or marginalized communities. LinkedIn requires that you post links to your work and your bio, your professional self out there. Culturally, many of us have been taught to look down. Don't take up too much room, don't make too much noise, do not look too Latina in your professional photographs. We're just not taught to boast and relish in our professional accomplishments, even though we have earned the right to do so. But that's why representation matters. That's what every single one of you in hiring and in HR, it matters. Because as a woman who is an immigrant, when you see other women of color making it, you see other immigrants and Latinos making it, it shows you that a path forward is possible. There is power in telling our stories. And as a storyteller for others, it took time for me to get the courage to put my own story out there. But when you do it, you realize we have so much to learn from making these wonderful connections. And that's what it means to live authentically, to embrace your whole journey, including your bio and your resume and your professional experiences, and that realization could come at different points for different people. I opened my LinkedIn profile, I remember, in February 2010. I thought I was being so pioneering. Turns out I was more like the 85th millionth user around the world. 2010 was a pivotal year for LinkedIn and its 100 international offices. 2010 for me was a pretty awful year. I had fled crisis in my native Venezuela. As a new immigrant to the United States, I didn't have a green card, and I had just been let go from the first job I ever landed here. So I was unemployed, practically undocumented, during the Great Recession, and in a new country with no connections. Opening my LinkedIn profile was a message in a bottle, a hope that someone out there in the world would come through for me, would grab the other canoe paddle and magically push me forward. I know that's just one story, but like mine, there are millions of stories out there. So I want to take a moment to thank you for being in HR, for the hiring decisions that you've made, for being a part of LinkedIn and Talent Connect. Because being on that platform led to opportunities that got the ball rolling to get me out of the professional rut that I was in. And Reid Hoffman would be the first to acknowledge that that would not have been possible without the team, without this, without unity. Still, let's go into exactly how I went from being unemployed and practically undocumented less than 10 years ago to being an author with a book in 2 languages, a viral TED speaker, and the only Latina national correspondent on MSNBC. Thank you. Before being a part of a successful team, I needed to first understand the ingredients to my secret sauce. What was unique that I brought to the table? And in the beginning, it's hard because all you can think of doing is to copy what exists. And as a kid growing up in South America, I used to monitor the news in English to try to find someone who looked like me, who had a name like mine, or came from somewhere different. But there were no references. When I finally moved here, it took time for me to figure out how to break through in the marketplace. I felt the imposter syndrome paralyze me so many times. And you can see how lost I was in something as simple as the way that I pronounced my name. If you see tapes from my early days, you see me go, "Hi, this is Mariana, coming to you live." I mean, I even changed the way my name sounds to make it seem more American, or so I thought. But it didn't quite work because it wasn't authentic. And over time, just like me with the pronunciation of my names, human beings, all of us in this room, we keep minimizing and minimizing these things that make us different. It starts when we are little kids in the playground. Nobody wants to be the kid that stands out. Everyone wants to fit in. Over time, we take this same attitude from the playground to high school, to college, to our first day in that exciting new job, to meeting our in-laws. I mean, need I say more? But what if you had the courage to turn all of that around? To look at yourself in the mirror, make a list of pros and cons, and instead of eliminating the cons or minimizing them, we turned those differences into competitive advantages. Flip the script. In my case, being a woman from a place that's often labeled the third world, my immigrant status, my accent, my name, all of these things made me different in the marketplace. It took me 10 years. From the day I was let go from a newspaper in Brooklyn, New York, to buying my own little camera, climbing my way up through digital and investigations and documentaries, national newscast in Spanish, to then cross over to English-speaking television. 10 years to stand in front of a microphone and grab it and proudly say, "This is Mariana coming to you live." Still gives me goosebumps. Because you realize that it is about more than this Mariana. It is about other Marianas who are going to be looking at me on that screen and saying, "Wow, she made it, and I can make it too." That's why representation matters. But I first needed to understand the ingredients of my secret sauce. So what happened? Everything just sort of clicked. And that's how I felt last summer when we went to go cover a story that was grabbing the nation's headlines, but I pushed to do it in a different way. See, last summer, the number of migrant families fleeing violence in Central America was spiking. The Trump administration started separating children from their parents as a deterrent to keep them from coming here. The outlets of the world went to the border to cover the story, and I remember getting there and instinctively seeing these migrant mothers and starting to speak to them in Spanish and letting them explain in their own language, with their simplicity, the suffering that they were going through. I took that raw emotion and I just started live translating in English for our national audience. Now, that is not the norm in broadcasting. The norm is to use voiceovers, translators, or sometimes to not give people like these mothers a voice at all. But although under different circumstances, see, I had also had to flee my own country in search of the same dream. So I leveraged everything that made me different. My roots, my immigrant experience, my second language, that uniquely positioned me to cover the plight of the migrant mothers beyond the policy and the politics. It allowed me to give a face to the crisis. I remember when I got back to the newsroom and I got the recognition from my peers that I'd never really gotten before. But more importantly, I felt like I helped people, that my otherness added much needed context and compassion and connection to an often complicated political story that is still shaking the country to this day. Soon enough, the pressure was too much for the government. They had to overturn the policy that separated children from their parents. And last night, for that unique and humane coverage of the migrant mothers, me and my team got nominated for a National Emmy Award for Outstanding Live Interview. I was nominated alongside Christiana Amanpour, Andrea Mitchell, George Stephanopoulos, and Mariana. How could I have been considered up to par with these figures that I watched as a little kid growing up in South America, that are clearly more experienced than I am, if I offered the same stories told in the same way? I stood out because I offered something different. I believe that when I pronounce my name the way it's meant to be pronounced, that when I bring my unique stories to the table, then when I embrace what makes me special, that makes my team better. And not because we got nominated for an Emmy Award, but because when I bring my unique insight to the table, I share it with my colleagues and I learn from them. Think about how this can be true to your departments and your organizations and your hiring decisions. I've taken this attitude to every editorial meeting every morning when outlets like NBC News determine what the nation's agenda is going to be. If I don't choose to bring my authentic self to that table, there is no innovation, and there are no diverse stories on television. So it is not only a disservice to my team, it is a disservice to our audience and the country. Think about how this can also be true for you. We need to foster environments where organizations don't make new voices be morphed into existing ones. We need them to be empowered to speak up with their cultural flavor and their words and their perspectives. We don't need the next so-and-so. We need the new, original, emerging voices that are going to continue to push our departments and our companies forward. So how can you ensure that? Well, just like it happened to me, it begins by first understanding what it is that makes you special. What are the ingredients to your secret sauce? And I want us to start taking inventory right here, right now, at Talent Connect. I'm going to give you 2 minutes on the clock to ask yourself this question. What makes you perfectly you? Time starts now. Now let the words flow. You can come up with 1 word, or 3, or 5. My name is blank. What makes me perfectly me is what makes you proud to be yourself. But also remember my story. It's about looking at the cons and flipping the script. How can we turn those into things that you are proud of? Have you overcome a specific challenge? Do you have an interesting family background that you haven't shared with your team? Do you know another language? We have done this from the Spotify conference in Barcelona, Spain, to Microsoft in Seattle, and most recently, the United Nations Girl Up Summit with amazing results. Take inventory, Talent Connect. You guys are used to analyzing products and websites and hiring decisions to the T. But how much time have you actually spent analyzing yourself? So once you are done thinking about what makes you perfectly you, I want you to raise your hand. Nobody is done thinking about what makes them perfectly themselves. Come on, you guys, we don't have that much time. Once you are done, raise your hand. My name is Mariana, and I am an optimist, I am driven, and I am a forever immigrant. That makes me perfectly me. Time is still going. Okay, my producer Karen tells me that we have 30 seconds. 30 seconds, you guys. I want to see more hands raised. What makes you perfectly you? Let the words take over. What makes you proud to be who you are? Where do you come from? What kind of a family dynamic did you grow up in? We have less than 30 seconds. Okay, Talent Connect. Raise those hands. What makes you perfectly you? Once you've thought of this for yourself, I want you to raise your hand. All right, guys, we need to see more hands raised. What makes you perfectly you? These differences that we're going to turn into your special sauce. All right, I like it. I'm starting to see more hands raised. We still have some people here in the front that don't have their hands raised. Okay, all right, let's do it. I want you to keep your hands raised because what do we have here? We have your own special sauce that is going to make up Team Talent Connect. I want you to say it with me. What do we have here? Team Talent Connect. Oh, come on, one more time. Team Talent Connect. All right, I want you to bring your hands down. And I asked you to bring your hands up because these things should make you feel proud of who you are. They should make you want to raise your hands and shout them from the rooftops. They are not meant to be hidden or to be felt ashamed of. And because we came here to create community, I want 3 brave volunteers to get up and share with the rest of the audience what makes you perfectly you. I just need 3, and we have mic runners that are going to be coming to you guys. We have one here in the front. We have another one here, and we have another one there in the back. Awesome. All right. Big round of applause, by the way, for our volunteers. Who's going to start over here? All right. Start with your name and say, my name is, what makes me perfectly me is?
My name is Lubna Khalili. I'm from India. What makes me perfectly me is I'm compassionate. I have the ability to dream big, and I have a fire inside of me that'll make it happen. Thank you.
Woo, a fire inside. I love it.
My name is Nicole Arrington. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'm a generational curse breaker, and I'm the best that ever did it and got away with it.
Curse breaker. I love it.
My name is Deb Johnson with the Coca-Cola Company, and I stand strong in the face of adversity.
Thank you so much, Deb. A big round of applause for our volunteers. Thank you so much for showing us the ingredients to your secret sauce. When you guys leave this keynote today, I want you to share what you discovered about yourself with your peers. Is there something that you haven't shared with people you work with or that are in your department? And also, I invite you to be curious about what other people thought for themselves. Just ask them casually in the elevator, hey, what makes you perfectly you? Remember, we came here to create community, and it is your imperfections, your viewpoints, your perspectives that will make all the difference. So now that we've discovered your magic formula, how that makes your team better, none of that won't be effective if you don't communicate it in the right way with a little something I like to call authentic messaging. It's the way you present it to the world. An authentic story is what sticks. Take my job. When I first started out as a journalist, I thought that finding the truth and being first, that was my goal. I was wrong. That's just my job. What matters the most to me now is to make people care. I don't just want them to watch my news reports and to say, whew, thank God that didn't happen here. I want to make them understand that the good and the bad that happens everywhere will affect them at some point. How do you make your employees care about your brand, about your company? How do you make your customers care? The key to crafting an authentic story is to showcase values that people will adhere to put yourself in someone else's shoes so that they can relate to you. That is the key to an authentic story. Now, how do we do that? We have to expose ourselves and be open, and I know that that is hard in today's social media world because social media pushes us to live with filters. But that has also made people detect fakeness in a heartbeat. People reward those who are being genuine with their attention because they want to create meaningful connections. When we pull the filters and the threads and fibers of each story, we realize how interconnected we all are as human beings. And authentic stories are key to crafting our collective history. From the clay tablets of Mesopotamia, dated 5,000 years ago, to the latest tweet by Mr. President, the power of a message, spoken, written, recorded, will be ever present in our lives. So what kind of a lasting message do you want to leave behind? Do you want to have your departments and your companies leave behind? The why, not the how or the what. A little over a year ago, I started asking myself that question. If my social media and my interviews, if they were reflections of my personality, what would they show? I would want them, I said to myself, to empower my audience. I want them to discover things about themselves when they see my work. So the idea of mentoring them tied nicely with the impact that my TEDx talk was having. I gave it 2 years ago. It's called What Makes You Special, and 2 weeks ago, it just passed 10 million views, translated in 10 languages around the world. What made my TED Talk go viral and be shared? People felt it as their own because they discovered things about themselves. Your brand story becomes that much more powerful when your customers and your employees tell it. Think about customer testimonials and product reviews. User-generated content has the power to generate with potential audiences and employees so much better than traditional marketing campaigns. So I took the TED Talk and I said, I owe this audience more than an 18-minute talk. and I turned it into a book called Perfectly You, which, by the way, is available in the store as soon as you exit this keynote. And I'm happy to stick around, sign some books, and connect with you guys because I want to create meaningful connections. And I go back to why I wrote the book, why I do what I do, and why I am on this stage. It's been a little over 10 years since I came to the United States, and I finally understand that that is what my papi meant by unity in that canoe. It is paddling together. It is putting everything you have, starting with your story, your abilities, your challenges, to the service of others. I left Venezuela in 2008 because of the political and the economic crisis. But when I think about what really tore us apart, it was polarization. People with different political views couldn't talk to each other anymore. Things got worse with the shortages of food and medicine. And in fact, last year, I lost my dad in the midst of the health crisis in Venezuela. He got the flu that quite possibly could have been cured here in the United States. But after 3 weeks in the ICU, we had to say goodbye. And I owe it to his memory to honor everything he taught me. And now that I see some of that same division here in this, my adopted country, I feel compelled to do something. It begins by not tearing each other down over things that we cannot control, like the color of our skin or our genetic makeup. We can't choose if we're born in a community clinic or a fancy hospital, but we do get to choose how to use the power that each of us has, big or small, to help our cause and our communities. Let's celebrate our differences and use them as building blocks, not rocks to throw at one another. As a national correspondent for NBC News, I'm on the road week after week, all over the world, talking to people from all walks of life. And you know what I found? Everyone wants unity. And in the face of adversity, in these times, unity is the only way that we will rise and overcome. And to end, I want to share how I just saw this in action, covering the recent devastation in the Bahamas. When we got down to the islands, it was as if a bomb had gone off. Hundreds were injured, dozens killed, thousands missing. I saw survivors, and I asked them, what do you need? What can I do? And their first thought was, other people, my neighbors, my friends, they need to be rescued. The receptionist at the hospital, Cheryl Johnson, worked 24/7 to direct patients and the media. Later, I found out she also had family that she didn't even know if they were alive or not. She knew she had a job to do every single morning at that hospital. Leon Lazard, medical survivor from the Abaco, who almost lost his leg and who told me that he felt happy to be alive because he had put other people out of harm's way. This is a snippet from my conversation with Leon that I saved for all of you. I'm here with Leon, who survived, and he's here. What does it feel like?
Right now, it just feels super special to know that I alive today and that the hurricane is over and that most of the people that was injured, that they trying to get medical assistance.
Well, and you were injured. I mean, look, these are the injuries you sustained.
Yeah, well, see, this, I don't even feel this. You know why? Because I saved my brother's life and I saved other people's lives. So by they being, and what so feels so good, they in the shelter in Abaco, and I'm here in the hospital, but to know that not one of those got injured to be evacuated to come to the hospital. So I feel good to be alive, to know that I did a good job and that the good God was with me, to know that it's a beautiful day. And like they say, every day above ground is a good day.
Leon needed as much help as everybody else, but he knew he had a role to play. The receptionist at the hospital knew she had a role to play. And me, by connecting the audience to Leon in his hospital chair, in his devastated island, thousands of miles away. At the end of the day, we were all people with a shared humanity who came together with a higher purpose. So let's be genuine when we connect with each other. Let's take care of each other. Let's build bridges when the call to separate us threatens the very fabric of this country. To end, I want everybody to get up. Let's get up, Talent Connect. Now, I believe that words have power, so I want us to manifest this call together out to the world. This call for authenticity and tolerance. I'm going to say, you don't have to be perfect, and then in unison, we will say, just perfectly you. Okay, Talent Connect, you don't have to be perfect, just perfectly you. One more. I want my papi in heaven to hear us all the way from Dallas, Texas. Hey, Talent Connect, you don't have to be perfect, just perfectly you. The only way that we will ensure we are linked into the future is by accepting ourselves and loving each other. Human progress is not automatic. Every step requires the courage of coming together, the tolerance of working together to succeed in being better together. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias.